What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Eye to Eye podcast with AJ, Rambo, and Kodi. And today is our 33rd edition of this podcast. And today is a little bit different because we have no AJ today. He's busy doing some other things. So I'm Kodi, will be taking over, kind of handling the back office stuffs, and we have once again Rambo here with us. So Rambo, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Cody. Hope you're doing well. Hope the audience is doing well as well.
Yeah, it's glad to be here, and and AJ said he might be able to pop in, so maybe we'll get lucky and have him pop in. If not, me and Rambo will have we have plenty to talk about this week. So um, I just wanted to quickly go through the introductions, and I'm using one of our old videos to show the slides. But the first thing is we're going to give a shout out once again to Balll Don't Lie, AJ. Thanks to him as always for putting this together and helping this to become a reality. And if you want to find him, you can find him at Balll Don't Lie on Instagram with 3 L's in ball. And also you can find him on YouTube as well by that same name. And yeah, go check out his YouTube channel and all his books. You can email him for the books. And as far as Rambo, let's get Rambo's thing up here. So Rambo, go ahead and do your plug.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks to AJ, even though he's not here, he said he might pop in. He initially put everything together. He's still very much present. So I appreciate AJ. I appreciate you, Cody, for hosting and for every week being here. So my work can be found at patreon.com/thetruthcodes. There's a lot of free content. There's some free content. And if you join for free, you can see a lot of past videos. But there's only one tier. It's a $5 a month tier. That's all, just $5 a month. And you can have access to the Discord Codebreaker community server as well for $5. This $5 a month is the only tier. And I'm also on Instagram.com/thetruthcodes.
Sweet. Yeah. And guys, make sure you head on over to his Patreon. It's a great deal. And we really appreciate Rambo and all the work he does. And I'm sure he'll be having some great decodes about the Venezuela thing. And we're going to kind of dive into that topic today and get Rambo's take. A lot of you guys have already seen my video on the Venezuela thing. And I think Rambo said he's even going to touch on the Greenland thing, which I haven't even looked into yet. So it'll be good to see how this show turns out. But if you guys want to find me, you guys can find me at most of you guys are all watching on that channel, Decoding with Kodi on YouTube. And again, if you want to support the channel, buymeacoffee.com/decoding with Kodi for donations. And I always greatly appreciate anyone who sends donations over. And yeah, so we'll close that down and we will get into the presentation. I had the Alice in Wonderland stuff up. I forgot I had that up. But we might talk a little about this as well once we get maybe towards the end if we have time. There's a kind of, I don't have a whole lot to say about it, but definitely some interesting stuff going on there. And for now, I guess we'll go ahead and start with Rambo's decode. I think you got a short clip, you said, Rambo?
I have a short clip of my latest Instagram post, it's not on this, but it's semi-related. It's on the Anthony Joshua, Jake Paul fight and the Anthony Joshua car crash in Nigeria, which is relevant because Trump had just bombed Nigeria 4 days earlier to that crash. So yeah, I just want to show it's my latest Instagram post. Yeah.
You can start whenever you're ready.
All right. Shout out to AJ of Balll Don't Lie YouTube channel and Instagram for making the connection between the 2000 movie The Skulls and the December 19th, 2025 celebrity boxing match between Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul. That is Joshua versus Paul. AJ points out that the two stars of The Skulls are Joshua and Paul. Joshua Jackson and Paul Walker. After the Joshua versus Paul fight, the media was flooded with images of Jake Paul's skull, x-rays of his double broken jaw. The Anthony Joshua-Jake Paul fight was sponsored in part by the movie 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, a movie with heavy skull and bones imagery. 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple was advertised along some of the ropes. Temple is a reference to the human head that houses the brain, the center of human consciousness. Jake Paul was still 28 years old at the time of the fight. You could say that Jake Paul was born in 1997 and the Joshua fight occurred 28 years later. In the reverse Pythagorean cipher of English gematria, starting with Z, ending with A, double-digit values reduced to single digits, so the 26th letter is 2 plus 6 equals 8, and A is the last letter because it is reversed. Temple has a value of 28. 28 years, the bone temple. The fight was held on the 19th of December, 2025, which is the 353rd day of the year. In a combination of Elizabethan / Francis Bacon gematria and numerology, 28 years later, the Bone Temple has a value of 353. That is with the digits of 28 included. Years later, the Bone Temple has a value of 325 in reverse Elizabethan Francis Bacon. Then you add the value 28. So 325 plus 28 gives you 353. The fight, in part sponsored by 28 Years, the Bone Temple, was on the 353rd day of the year. 353 is the 71st prime number in the simplest cipher of English gematria, A through Z, having values of 1 through 26. Temple equals 71. Yeah, so that's it. That's an excerpt. It's, if you want to see the full decode, it's a written text decode. It's on patreon.com/thetruthcodes.
Yeah, that's a good connection. It's funny because I totally forgot about that movie, and that that makes so much sense now, especially because I had talked about the my original decode on that was about how it connected to the third eye, of course, which is which is usually centered right in the center of the skull, right? So it's funny how that kind of all connects together. But wow,
So I do talk about that in my written decode. So
okay,
so decent length, but so you saw how the Skulls movie aligned with the fight, with the names. It's Jake and Paul. Those are the names of the two actors. Those are the two names of the two fighters, and the Skulls. And what was the image that you saw throughout the media after the fight? Was Jake Paul's skull. And
yeah,
there's more skull imagery. Even before the fight, they had a promotional event where the two of them were talking together, but they're sitting at a table together, I guess, talking back and forth. And Jake Paul was wearing a T-shirt with a skull on it. So and he has, I think he has skull tattoo, but that's the imagery, and it is related to the third eye.
right,
Because the skull houses the, it's So number 33, remember how 33 was so big in a fight, is mentioned by several decoders. Why 33 is so important esoterically? It's because the human spine has 33 vertebrae. And the
Mm-hmm.
human spine is said to be the location of the chakra system and the Kundalini energy, which starts at the base, 7 chakras. The two top chakras, the Ajna chakra, that's the third eye, and the crown chakra, the Sahasrara. Those are the two chakras which are in the skull, essentially. And that's actually what that movie is about. Like even like you showing with WWE, I mean, it looks kind of silly on the surface, but they have some really profound messages encoded, which I didn't realize until you started bringing up the WWE stuff. Well, this is what they do. They will hide hidden truth, gems of truth, esoteric truth in productions like this, movies, wrestling, even places where you wouldn't think they'd exist. But so the skulls, the chakra system, that's why you had the 33, it's the vertebrae. And there's a lot of snake symbolism there. We're coming to the end of the year of the snake. So, and the house of God, that's what the temple is. Like I showed there, the temple is not literally a building necessarily. The temple refers to the human head, and that's where human consciousness is focused from the human head while you're having your experience as a human being. So yeah, that's the symbolism.
Yeah, and I think the snake thing is important too, since we're getting close to the end of that. And it was with happening on the Donnie Darko's birthday as well. It's funny how all that kind of ties together with Jake Paul and Jake. Again, I talked about that when it happened with Jake Gyllenhaal, and then all the Jake stuff, because that was also the main character in the movie, the Avatar movie, Fire and Ash. Well, that was all about I showed how it's connected to the third eye and all that stuff. But definitely, since we're coming towards the end of the snake year and heading into the horse year, it's interesting to see what happens there. Like I said, this week, most people know I've been talking this week all about the white horse, but um, yeah, there's definitely it's in, and again, shout out to AJ for picking up on the skulls. Um, I still didn't get a chance to finish that whole movie. I got about a quarter or halfway through it, but I'm gonna eventually finish it. I always get distracted, and then by the time I get off into the I start as I'm watching, as I start decoding too, and then I end up getting way off the beaten path, and then by the time that happens, I always get pulled away from watching it. But yeah, it's definitely a very important movie. I think everyone should probably watch it in the community. So,
Yeah.
and
So
the duck thing's interesting too, because last night or yesterday that the Heliofont channel posted all these videos, which I covered earlier, guys. If you guys want to check out that video, I covered that earlier. But there was a duck. He actually recorded one of his random videos was a duck on the lake. So I wanted to show that to AJ as well. So hopefully I'll have to send that to him later. But there was a duck in the videos. And of course, I connected that to the Golden Gate Bridge because this was on the Golden Gate Bridge 93rd anniversary of its construction beginning. And in the video, he specifically shows the bridge. And off to the side, there's a clock tower, which looks almost exactly like the clock tower that's in the iPet Goat scene where the twin towers are falling. And the bridge is like, instead in the real life video, it's the bridge is taking the spot of the falling towers in the actual video, or in the iPet Goat video. I'll have to pull that up so you can see it, Rambo. But yeah, it was pretty interesting, and was exactly 93 weeks after the Francis Scott Key Bridge. So it was not only on the 93rd anniversary of the Golden Gate Bridge, it was 93 weeks exactly after the Francis Scott Key. So, and the Golden Gate Bridge equals 93. So we'll get to that later, but I wanted to get Rambo. You wanted to talk about the because Rambo hasn't had a chance to. You guys have seen my video on the Venezuela thing. I connected it to Sirius, and Rambo. I think Rambo said he's going to connect it to Venus, which is interesting because I had mentioned how earlier this week how Venus is kind of conflated sometimes with Sirius. So I think it would be good to see what Rambo has to say about that.
Yeah, also the symbol of Sirius can be the pentagram. The pentagram can symbolize both the star Sirius or Venus, typically.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I believe there's a Venus Sun conjunction right now.
absolutely. That's part of my decode. And
Okay. Yeah.
you'll understand why they did it when they did. So I'll play a second part of my video. So this is a video some people may be aware of. Which I mean, I've brought it up before in the past several years back, but you'll see something that's relevant 5 years ago, 10, 20 years ago will become relevant again. And so this is at the esoteric heart, at least part of it, of what happened with the attack and invasion on Venezuela. What esoterically, there's something else at the root of this, which is a worldwide phenomenon.
On October 18, 1989, in West Branch, Iowa, Gerald Ford, the 38th President of the United States, shared history with students from across Iowa. The visit was part of a conference on the role of former presidents in American society, sponsored by the Herbert Hoover Library and Museum and the Gerald Ford Library and Museum. Here's how these students took advantage of a rare learning opportunity.
Thank you very, very much. It's a very high honor and a very great privilege for me to come to West Branch and to participate in this conference, which is being held here at the Hoover facilities.
Mr. Ford, what advice would you give a young lady wanting to become President of the United States?
Well, I hope we do have a young lady at some point become President of the United States. I can tell you how I think it will happen, because it won't happen in the normal course of events. Either the Republican or Democrat political party will nominate a man for president and a woman for vice president. And the woman and man will win. So you'll end up with a president, a male, and a vice president, a female. And in that term of office of the president will die. And the woman will become president under the law or constitution. And once that barrier is broken, from then on, men better be careful, because they'll have a hard time ever even getting a nomination in the future. But that's the way it's going to happen, and I think it'll probably come sometime in the next 4 or 8 years.
Yeah, so that was Gerald Ford in 1989 predicting a female he predicted a female vice president of the United States who would eventually become female president. So it doesn't, a female transitioning to a leadership position where she wasn't appointed to, it's because something happened to the male. So that's already been seen a few times in American politics. So it's not necessarily a death. In New York State, Andrew Cuomo was the governor of New York State. His deputy governor or assistant, whatever his second in command, was Kathy Hochul, a female. And the way she came to power was there's this scandal sexual harassment and abuse scandal against Andrew Cuomo. So even though none of it was proven in court, I guess the claims led to the ouster of the governor, the male governor of New York, and the female took the reins by default. Of course, once you're an incumbent, it's easier to win an election once you're an incumbent. You have name recognition, and it's easier just to have continuity. It gives you an advantage being an incumbent. She probably would have had a harder time being elected without being, appointed first as a deputy and then by default getting the position. So that's what they're describing here. So what Gerald Ford was describing was how a process in which maybe it will be difficult for females to get in because they can't get elected directly, but they can get in indirectly. So that's what he's talking about. I've also talked about the significance of Gerald Ford, because Gerald Ford, he has two of the, I'd say, lower profile assassination attempts in American presidential history. There were, in 1975, there were not one but two assassination attempts on Gerald Ford. I've talked about that at length in my decodes. And both of his, alleged, the accused potential assassins were females, which is very rare. Female assassins are very rare. Gerald Ford had two of them in the same month in 1979. September 1975, there were two assassination attempts on the life of President Gerald Ford, both by females. So how ironic that it's him who's prophesying the eventual appointment of a female vice president who would eventually become president, which is also the plot of the series Veep. No, it stands for Vice President, starring Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Now, another reason Gerald Ford is important and relevant is because when the United States military first started deploying to Venezuela, they deployed the biggest aircraft carrier in history. It's literally the biggest and most advanced Navy vessel in human history. It is the aircraft carrier USS Gerald Ford. So he's directly connected to this. I had already been talking about Gerald Ford. Then the Gerald Ford got deployed. And there's some Charlie Kirk parallels with that. If you look at the different dates with the Gerald Ford, USS Gerald Ford, the day was dedicated and its first launch. One of them, I think, was September 10th, which is Charlie Kirk would be, assassinated. So assassination is the theme on that day, an anniversary of the dedication of the Gerald R. Ford. So Gerald Ford, I've been talking about him. He's very central to this, but because
and his wife took over for him too, Rambo. Yeah, of course, I'm sure that you thought of that, but Charlie Kirk's wife, the female, took over for him as well. So
Erica Kirk is part of this. You're seeing the male removed, and then the female by default almost. This is exactly Gerald Ford's prediction. And again, the USS Gerald Ford, it does tie into Charlie Kirk with its dedication day. So you're right. That's part of the trend. So I focused on this when you had the Democrat primary for the 2016 election, where there was an unprecedented, was it 2016? No, 2020 election. There was an unprecedented number of female candidates for the Democrat Party. And so there's some predictive programming in Veep. This stars Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She's most famous for Seinfeld. But she was a U.S. senator. the U.S. senator who ran for president in the primaries. They don't use Democrat, but they're referring to Democrat anyway. And she did not win the primaries. A male won the primary and then appointed her as vice president. And then there's a scandal where the male president has to leave office and then she becomes president. And her name in the series is Selena Meyer. So that's the backdrop esoterically, symbolically. And there's a lot more to this, obviously, than just this, but this is part of it. So the irony here is that Donald Trump action, Donald Trump is a figurehead. There are much higher powers than he who have planned this out. And he's there to maintain the illusion, if people are still buying it, of some semblance of democracy and I guess some sense of power among the populace that by vote, at least, Trump supporters may feel, yeah, we voted him into office. But when you see these trends and you see these patterns, they've been, again, showing up in so many different areas. Trump is not the architect of that. He's not really independent. He could wake up tomorrow and say, I don't want to threaten any more countries. I think that, no, he doesn't have the option of acting on that. He may think it. We don't know. He does not have the option of doing that. What he's doing, he's an actor. He literally is an actor. He's in the Acting Hall of Fame. He's in the WWE Hall of Fame. And now he's president. He wasn't a governor or a senator. He was an actor in prime time. This is the role he's been told to play by forces that really are powerful, not him. He's doing what he's told to do. But so this is this is at the heart of a part of this. So ironically, the actions of the United States government under Trump, but another power, obviously, but we'll say Trump, is he got a female into office in a similar manner to which you could say, like you said, Erica Kirk became the head of Turning Point, or to which Gerald Ford himself described. So this is worldwide, this phenomena. Across the world, you're seeing more and more females come to power, even in sports. Even seeing females in areas which were predominantly all male or majority male, such as officiating, refereeing. Like you're seeing female assistant coaches in the NFL, female officials in all sports, in basketball, in the NFL, in soccer. This is a general trend. And I have to shout out again, Casey Jones, Bobby Simpson, for explaining this. I wouldn't have known this, but part of the reason they're doing this is they use the stars and astrology as part of it. Actually dictates to them what they should do at the top. So they don't just do what they want. They do follow some rules for whatever reasons. And some of those rules are based on astrology in the tropical zodiac. Again, shout out to Casey Jones, Bobby Simpson. The star Regulus. Now, the stars don't appear to move, but they do move very, very slowly. And the star Regulus, which is associated with leadership and royalty, Regulus, like Regis, Latin for king, it was always in the constellation of Leo, which is a very masculine. So the lion, it's a very masculine sign. But ever so slowly, Regulus crept into Virgo, whose symbol is the maiden, which has more of a feminine connotation. Now, this is different than astronomy. And actual astronomy, Regulus is still in Leo, but in the tropical zodiac, which is the Western tradition, which uses the 12 sun signs, and it's 40 degrees off of astronomy. But in that, the popular Western tradition of astrology, Regulus, the star associated with rulership, Regis, which means king, has moved into the more feminine symbol, Virgo. And that's what they're obeying. It's like they have to do it. But what they'll do is they'll appoint their women. So it won't be So this sort of thing probably would happen anyway, just because of the power of the stars. But if it's manipulated, which it is, they will control which. Oh, I guess they feel we have to do this. Some power dictates we have to do this. So as long as we have to do this, we'll put our women in place. And you'll see the women who are, for the most part, getting these positions are no different whatsoever than the males, which is obvious. There's another force above them that dictates what they do. All they are, they're just, or they're a facade, is what they are. They're an avatar, honestly, of the essence of the real power behind them. And nothing really changes. In New York State, Kathy Hochul is no different, if not worse, than Andrew Cuomo. She's done things like declare a state of emergency when there is no state of emergency and deploy the military in New York City subways. There's no state of emergency. Why is the National Guard being deployed in New York City subways? And they're doing random searches on commuters. And the National Guard was actually searching bags until there was complaints were done, legal complaints. So what they did is they had the New York City Police Department do the searches, but with the National Guard present. I say that just to illustrate, just because you would point a female doesn't mean things will become any more humanistic or empathetic or authentic, because they're still using their women. So it's like, you could say there's this spirit that exists in the world that controls, and a spirit can occupy any body. And there's a rule that says, well, now you have to occupy female bodies, but it's still the same force that is more malevolent than it is benevolent. Anyway, so that's the background to this. Now, because of Trump's actions, we have a female president. Technically, I think she's acting president. Nonetheless, we have a female president in Venezuela now. As a result, just as in the same, she ascended to power in the same way in which Gerald Ford predicted that would happen for the United States.
And in RAMBO, the United Nations had done a meeting. I think it was yesterday or the day before, and they were going over this, and everyone was saying how they disagreed with Trump's actions. And the current president of the UN is Annalena Baerbock, I believe how you say her name. She's German, of course, which is interesting because Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, it's German as well. But yes, she is the current president of the United Nations. So it is interesting, and they did have a lot of women on that panel. I watched some of it. It was boring as heck, but I did watch some of that meeting of the United Nations, and we had a lot of women speaking from different countries, speaking about Trump's actions. So that was kind of a highlight. I just thought I'd add that in there.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so yeah, great example. Even the United Nations is part of this trend. And so what is dictating it? It's this. It is the star Regulus moving from Leo into Virgo. That's what is dictating this to them. So yeah, another great example. And look at who Trump has threatened. So he's threatened Mexico, which has a female leader. He's threatened Greenland. He seems really serious about Greenland. Like, he's really doubling down. Like, Greenland, they are like really concerned. Like, no, he's serious. It looks like he's going to do it. So he's threatened Greenland. Greenland has a female head of state as well, because Greenland is part of Denmark. And the prime minister of Denmark is the ruler of Greenland. The prime minister of Denmark is a female, who I'll get to in this decode as well. So
the president of the United Nations, she took over one day before Charlie Kirk was shot. Just wanted to add that in there.
Oh, wow.
So that's actually crazy, because after Charlie Kirk was shot, his wife took over, as we mentioned. So
Yeah.
The fact that she took over the day before on September 9th, that's pretty interesting.
So yeah, so Trump has threatened Iran. Iran is part of this the imagery, as I'll show you. He's threatened Iran. He's threatened Greenland with a female prime minister. He's also threatened Colombia, the neighbor of Venezuela, and Colombia is very relevant to this as well. And he just bombed Nigeria, which ties into the Jake Paul thing, because the Jake Paul, again, stuff like this celebrity match may seem silly, but that's how they code whatever is their vibration to the matrix. So many things are tied to it. Even politics and social events are tied to them. 4 days before Anthony Joshua's crash in Nigeria, he had to be in Nigeria for the crash. Donald Trump bombed Nigeria. So most of his actions either against Arab, African, or Central South American countries. That's where most of the actions are. And that's also tied into his, it was at the inauguration. They didn't hide it. They had Elon Musk do a full-on Nazi salute. And we talked about all the Nazi symbolism that's going around. And this is, it's pretty serious stuff. They're not just doing it. In part, they are doing it to create an impression that will be understood on an unconscious level to most people and create, when you're unconscious will dictate your thoughts and actions. So yeah, there's that depth to it. But it also, so they also are playing out a Nazi type / you could even say an Antichrist type theme where who's the big villain in the world now? It's Trump, and who knows? We just started. So first week of 2026, who knows where we're going with this guy? But you can see the trend here with the female symbolism. And Venus is anthropomorphized as a female. The planet Venus and the goddess Venus, the Roman goddess Venus, who was Aphrodite to Greece. The glyph for the planet Venus is the symbol for female. It's the same symbol, the circle with the cross on the bottom. That's why Venus is so important and relevant and keeps manifesting in female-related narratives, which is front and center right now with Regulus and Virgo and the things that are going on now. So the planet Venus rules 2 zodiac signs in the tropical zodiac. Venus rules Taurus, and Venus also rules Libra. So you should see, not entirely, but predominantly, you will see Libras and Tauruses represented in these types of narratives. And the key gematria value of Venus, now there are others, but this one in the reverse simple cipher of 54 is a big one. Venus is the goddess of love. Love is also 54. Venus is the goddess of love. Now, while Venus does have a positive, loving, I guess you could say, reputation to it, one thing important in mysticism is that every planet, almost everything, has a positive and negative side to it. So Venus is not purely positive and purely love. Even Venus can be a destroyer. Just to clarify. And in astrology, Venus is titled the lesser benefic, meaning there are 2 benefic planets, Jupiter and Venus. Jupiter is the greater benefic. Venus is the lesser benefic, so it's considered benefic. Nonetheless, every single planet has a positive and a negative and multiple other aspects. So this is not to say that Venus is some pure loving goddess necessarily, but Venus 54 has the same gematria value as love. So you'll see 54 come up a lot, and 54 is a date as well. It could be May 4th, and May 4th would be in Taurus. April 20th to May 20th. So Taurus, so May 4th would be ruled by Venus as well. And I'll show you how it has come up in history. They've used this undeniably. This 54. Love is 54 in the same cipher. Sarah T. Hughes is the only female to swear in a United States president. When she swore in Lyndon Baines Johnson in 1963, November 22nd, after the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Now, usually it's the Chief Justice of the United States who swears in the president. In this case, JFK was shot in Texas, so that was their excuse for not doing it formally. I mean, honestly, don't see why they couldn't have just flown to DC and had the Chief Justice swear in LBJ, but this is all ritual. And these are very important rituals, even though we may not fully understand them. These are codes that dictate to them in power what they should do. And so they had to do this for ritual reasons. And so she was a Texas judge. I think she was a judge on the Texas Supreme Court. So she was when they're in Texas, that's the available judge. And she swore in LBJ. That's Sarah T. Hughes. So that's how because there's never been a female Supreme Court Chief Justice. So this is how we ended up with the only female to ever swear in a U.S. president. Now, where were they? If you see this cramped area that they're in, they're on Air Force 2, which is the aircraft for the Vice President of the United States. Air Force 1 was not used, that was JFK's. This was Lyndon Baines Johnson's as the Vice President. This is Air Force 2. So this is where they had the swearing in ceremony. But where were they? They were at Dallas Love Field. So that's the imagery there. It was at Love Field where you had the only female to ever swear in a U.S. president. So this is how important this imagery is to them. Here's an example at when we have another work of popular culture is the series House of Cards, where you have a female vice president, again, going along the Gerald Ford model that he set out. In House of Cards, you had a female vice president who becomes president. In this case, the president wasn't killed. Famously, the president was played by Kevin Spacey. And he left because of scandal. He wasn't killed, but he left because of scandal. By default, Claire Underwood, which was played by Robin Wright, Claire Underwood became U.S. president. Dallas Love Field put up a real Claire Underwood statue at Love Field. So again, it's at Love Field. You see the importance of the imagery, love. It's about Venus. It's about 54. And this is the statue. Now, it's not permanent. It's not there anymore, but it was there in Love Field, a fictional female president. And she was the 47th, which is interesting. Donald Trump is the 47th. So you see how Donald Trump is tied into this. He just created the first female president of Venezuela. He created it, but he's told to do it. Star Wars Day is May the 4th. I talked about the 54. And May the 4th is in Taurus. Taurus is ruled by Venus. In Star Wars, the protagonists are the Rebel Alliance, which in the Pythagorean cipher sums to 54. The Star Wars is a big part of this. And this is the Rebel Alliance emblem from Star Wars. This same emblem is on the Iranian flag, very similar emblem, and many people have pointed it out. Star Wars says they're not related, the official Star Wars canon. But this is the symbol in the middle of the Iranian flag, very much like the Rebel Alliance of Star Wars. And 54 is also the value of Islam. You see how Trump is targeting Muslim countries. I think Muslim is 54 as well. And the stars of Star Wars, Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, and Carrie Fisher, who's Princess Leia, they're both Libras. October 21st, September 25th. Those are both under Libra, ruled by Venus. So Star Wars has that Venus symbolism, the heavy Venus symbolism. Star Wars Day, May the 4th. So Star Wars has a planet that is completely obliterated, an entire planet gets completely destroyed by the Death Star of the Empire. And that planet is called Alderaan. That's the home planet of Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker, who are twins. You don't know that in the beginning, but they're twins. They were born on this planet, Alderaan, in Star Wars. Alderaan, where did they get that name? Alderaan. Alder, AAN. They get it from the real star in astronomy, Aldebaran. All they do is remove the R. Aldebaran is the brightest star in the constellation of Taurus. And again, which planet rules the zodiac sign of Taurus? Venus. So even the name of the planet in Star Wars is based on Venus. And the stars of the series are based on Venus. They're from zodiac signs ruled by Venus. And Star Wars Day is under a zodiac sign ruled by Venus. So that's what that's how heavily coded this is. It's popular culture and in history. And here's an example of how history and politics ties into this. It's not just insignificant pop culture and movies from the past. They're still relevant. So Star Wars has a theme, a motto, may the force be with you, famously. So Star Wars Day is May the 4th. And the official story is the reason that May the 4th is Star Wars Day is because it sounds like May the Force. But what's the real reason? We know the real reason. It's because it has to do with gematria and astrology. It's because May the 4th is in Taurus. Taurus ruled by Venus. Venus equals 54, which is 5-4. May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. First came to public, I guess, attention, or first used in public. It was the London Evening News, a conservative newspaper, had a headline, May the 4th be with you, in 1979, after Margaret Thatcher became the first female British Prime Minister. And May the 4th was her. May the 4th was the day after her election. And so that was the headline in the London Evening News. May the 4th be with you, for Margaret Thatcher, for the first female British Prime Minister. And again, she's another example. Her prime ministership, it didn't provide wasn't any less aggressive, less intrusive, bellicose, you could say, than any male administration. It's the same force, but just a female facade. You didn't get any more empathy or humanistic policies because a female was in charge. It's in fact, she actually got more. It's just like New York. Very often the females will become even more malefic than the males were. They're just a facade. So they will follow dictates up to a point. Yes, okay, so we have to appoint a female. Apparently they feel they have to, they're forced to. So they say, oh, well, we'll appoint a female, but she'll still have that spirit in her to occupy, which is not the spirit that you would associate with the energy of Venus, even though everything is yin and yang. Margaret Thatcher is a Libra, was a Libra, and ruled by Venus. So this is how seriously they take it, just like Mark Hamill, just like Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher. None of this is a coincidence. And then May the 4th be with you is a Star Wars motto, and it's a motto for Margaret Thatcher, and she just happens to be Libra, just like the stars of Star Wars. It's all about Venus, 54. October 13th, we've seen with the females, well, she's the highest profile Democrat congressperson. If you're to ask your average American, who can you name a Democrat congressperson? Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez takes most of the headlines in the news on the Democrat side in the House of Representatives. You can't think of another Democrat who's as high profile as she is. If there is, you could think of Ilhan Omar, maybe of Minnesota. But so Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she might be a presidential candidate. She was also born October 13th. same as Margaret Thatcher. And May the 4th be with you was, first coined for Margaret Thatcher. It's also the date on which construction started on the White House. So what's the symbolism there? So the United States is not fully, hasn't got all the way with appointing a female president. All these other countries are doing it. The United States is still holding out. But there actually was, briefly, technically, you could say, a female president of the United States when Kamala Harris was, for 85 minutes, president of the United States, acting president. And this date ties into Kamala Harris as well, because her husband is Doug Emhoff. He was born October 13th. He is a Libra, married to 49th Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. So he's connected to Kamala Harris. Now, she actually did become acting vice president, just as Venezuela now has an acting vice president. And of course, Kamala Harris is a Libra. You see how important this is? It's all based on Venus. That's the background to all of this. And of course, Kamala Harris, at her inauguration, I guess, fulfilled another Simpsons predictive program, wearing the exact outfit that had previously been, this is back around 2000. And this is in 2021. But the exact outfit, pearls and a purple pantsuit, I think they call it. Not a pantsuit, but a jacket anyway. This is identical to Lisa Simpson. Look at the pearl earring, the pearl necklace, same colors. And at the time, Lisa Simpson was actually taking over from Donald Trump. So they also predicted a Trump presidency. So this is a quote. Lisa Simpson says, "As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump." So Trump is related to this. Again, Trump is an actor. He doesn't plan any of this. He doesn't coordinate any of this. He doesn't know that Regulus moved into Virgo. He doesn't. Maybe he does. Who am I to say? Maybe he does. Either way, he's not the one who determines this. He's an actor who is told to fulfill these kind of esoteric scripts. There's Lisa Simpson and Kamala Harris. And how important, if I haven't emphasized it enough, the Venus symbolism is with females in power. Lisa Simpson is a Taurus, a sign ruled by Venus. The pattern is undeniable. I think we made the point there. Now, Venus, so green is the color of Venus. Just an example from an astronomy website. Venus does have a green glow. And while Venus appears yellowish white from Earth, if you look at it on a telescope, green is a significant color associated with Venus in mythology, art, and science, representing fertility, like Earth's green. So Earth and Venus are actually considered twin sisters. Earth and Venus are the two planets that are closest in size. So they are metaphorical twin sisters. And they both wear green. So green is the color of Earth, and it's the color of Venus as well. Which is why Delcy Rodriguez of Venezuela, who's now sworn in thanks to Donald Trump, interestingly, she was sworn in wearing green. That's not a coincidence. Now here's a closer look. She made sure, well, she was told to wear green, the Venus color. And what zodiac sign do you think Delcy Rodriguez is? Most likely, if this pattern is going to hold true, Taurus or Libra. Yeah, she's a Taurus. Her birthday is May 18th. That's all. She's a United Socialist. So this has been Trump's, the trend now is to attack countries that have liberal / left-wing governments. The Danish government is a left-wing socialist. She's from a socialist party, so that's been the trend as well. That's part of his Nazi coding as well. And yeah, so she's a Taurus, which is Venus programming again. You want to jump in, or could I continue? I want to add anything. I don't want to just. Hey, AJ.
What's up, Ravo?
Yeah, I just wanted to stop in case anyone wanted to add something.
The latest thing I was just going to say, with everything you've been talking about with the female and Trump, you know, I came in late, and thank you guys both so much for still making the show happen. I didn't know if I was going to make it, but you know, I came in for a brief second. You guys probably saw me in my business attire. I just this is my top priority, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So I jumped in really at Rambo's part about Trump and the Venus, the female connections. I don't know if you had already touched on it, but it makes me think about right before Donald Trump, right before Election Day, right? A big thing that dropped was the whole, what was it, Bobby Bush? What was the guy's name again? The whole, you know, grab him by the
right, yeah,
by the P, you know,
yeah,
with I forget the guy's name, but like just think about the sexual connotations. Bush, the P word.
yeah.
You know, that there's been several people in the chat talking about Venus and penis, right? The P and the V. And then the last example you just showed, green being earth and the heart and love, right? And Venus and all that stuff. If you wouldn't mind scrolling right back up to the last image you showed, because you guys know I love my wordplay. Delphi Rod Rodriguez. Rod, the phallus, you know, the phallus in Washington, D.C. You know, I just wanted to throw that in there. But yeah, thanks again, you guys, for still keeping the train going. You know, it really killed me that I couldn't kick things off like normal. But looks like you guys are a well-oiled machine. And thank you, Kodi, for setting it up and you know, setting the stage. I appreciate both of you guys very much.
Yeah, AJ, I appreciate you, man, and for setting this up. And I'm glad you were at least able to get in here. And yeah, I mean, I think I think it's better when we have the three of us. That's our show, so that's what I think. But yeah, with this, Rambo, just to add something here, I noticed that the current president, or whatever she is, of Denmark, I guess her name is Fredriksen. She actually born on November 19th, which is funny because that was the day Kamala Harris took over.
Yeah, you stole my thunder. This is going to be.
Oh, okay.
No, go
Okay.
ahead.
No, hey, that's what happens when you host the show, is that typically you're going to steal Rambo's thunder, right? That's what happens.
No, that's good. No, that shows. No, that's good. That shows that they're on top of the code. But yeah, that's going to be a later part of it. I'm going to leave it as kind of like a kicker. But
Kodi intercepted the alley-oop. Kodi, I'm finally not the only one between the three of us that has done this. So
okay, yeah,
thank you, Kodi, for finally taking that weight off my shoulders.
Yeah, you're off the hook. Yeah, you're off the hook.
Oh man, I didn't think I'd be stealing your thunder. Well, I mean, I kind of figured you might know that, but yeah, I probably should have.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. No.
Okay.
Go ahead, yeah.
But yeah, the other thing I want to say too with this Venus stuff is actually, I think it was Casey Jones that let me know this. Well, I think I had saw this, but he actually brought it to my attention again. The videos that were posted yesterday from Heliofont, it was just happened to be that they were posted exactly 22 Venusian years after the original iPad Goat released. So that was on a Venus count, that release of those videos. So I think that's pretty significant, considering all this happened literally the day or 2 days after this whole thing with Venezuela. And then they just decided to release their new videos. And yeah, Dr. Savage is saying there is a scene in the iPad Goat that looks a lot like Maduro sinking, and I think there's a flower on the oil, or the wherever that guy that's sinking into the like green goo. There's like a flower there, so that might be even connected. Oh, and yeah, somebody's also mentioning that Venezuela means little Venice. Venice sounds a lot like, and I thought this too when I originally saw this. Venus, Venice, Venezuela. Yeah. And then Casey Jones in the chat right there, heart chakra. He said Delcy Rodriguez and Maria Machado born 589 days apart. Wow. You guys know how much I talk about that number. That's, of course, Donald Trump equals 589. And that's also interesting because XRP is the cryptocurrency that has that connection to the 589 number. And it just so happens that the 4th, which was one day after the Venezuela thing, was the anniversary of XRP's all-time high, which means it was on a Venus pentagram count because it was exactly 8 years after XRP's all-time high, Earth years, which means it was exactly 13 Venus years after the all-time high, because Venus and Earth have that 13:8 ratio, which makes the pentagram. So I think that's pretty significant. All that stuff kind of ties together with this. And then, of course, probably always connects to the Sirius stuff because, again, Sirius and Venus are often considered the two brightest things in the sky. And I actually even connected this thing to The Shining. I connected that that fire, which happened in Switzerland 2 days before, to The Shining. And Venus, the shining, Sirius, the bright shining star. So I really believe there's this theme here of the shining one. This theme keeps coming up between, and these two celestial bodies, Venus and Sirius, both kind of conflated and both being very bright. And that fire, just to connect all this, that fire that started the year in Switzerland, I told you guys how the fire was right down the road from where the OTS, the Order of the Solar Temple, had burned their houses down and committed suicide years before. And they, of course, were trying to transit to Sirius. That was their whole. But one of the other bodies that they tried to go to was Venus and Jupiter. Venus, Jupiter, and Sirius. But Sirius was the main transit point for the Order of the Solar Temple, but it does list in the Wikipedia, if you read it, it says that they also alternative places they were trying to transit to after their death, and that was Venus and Jupiter. And so anyway, that was right down the road. That fire was right down the road from the Swiss place where that Order of the Solar Temple incident occurred. In the same county, it was even in the same area. And come to find out, Venezuela, this is what connects us to the horse year. Venezuela, in the year 1966, the last fire horse year, Venezuela was in Switzerland. This is what brings it all together. This is actually it's a nail in the coffin, because it shows you they were syncing these first two events of the year, Venezuela and the fire in Switzerland, were synced up with the other horse year, 1966, the last fire horse, where Venezuela was in Switzerland for the Geneva Agreement over land dispute for Guyana between them and United Kingdom. And that was on, guess what day that was? In 1966, it was on February 17th, 1966. When does the horse year start this year? February 17th. And of course, that is Michael Jordan's birthday, and who's the Sirius symbol. Again, kind of tying this all back together. But and then we find out that the Sirius in the Zoroastrianism, the white horse, Sirius turns into the white horse Tishtira. And again, the Venezuelan flag has the white horse, and then kind of all that kind of symbolism. And then Venezuela's white horse is based off of Simon Bolivar, which I talked about how he was moved to New York. And there's actually a statue in New York Central Park of Simon Bolivar. So how funny it was that Maduro was moved there. But yeah, that's all I'll add right now. But I thought that was a kind of what I wanted to add to kind of bring some of these points together, and how kind of what Rambo's talking about is kind of connected to what I talked about. A lot of celestial stuff going on. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's a big part of dictating, I guess, the code to the matrix is the stars. So there's no doubt about it.
If I can just add a little bit to it, and most of this comes from the chat. Shout out to Mr. S. He says that Venice means Venus. So Venezuela technically has that direct connection to Venus. I can't elaborate more on that, but I thought that was an interesting comment. And with Kodi, with you bringing back the fire symbolism, let's not forget about all the work you have done specifically about Charles and Char, right? And the ashes and everything with Charlie Kirk, right? That just kind of got my juices flowing a little bit, so to speak. And it ties back into what Rambo's talked about with where Charlie Kirk was assassinated and how it looks like a home plate. And then he took it right up to the stars. And the bear cub and the big bear and the little bear, right? So, you know, I'm not trying to get too off track, but it's another little web that kind of layers right on top of everything you guys have been talking about. And the other thing was Apache Ghost shouted out Mr. S mentioning about Evergreen, the Evergreen High School. You have the Evergreen container, right? But Evergreen High School matters because there was a shooting the same day as Charlie Kirk, right? At Evergreen High School in Colorado, where I just so happen to be currently. Not in Evergreen, but you know, it all comes full circle, you know.
Yeah, that's a good good additions. I mean, with all this stuff going on, it always going to tie back into Charlie Kirk. And I was mentioning that earlier to Gematria. We were trying to kind of go over the Super Bowl stuff and see who was going to make it. And I mentioned him that we definitely have to take into consideration this Charlie Kirk thing. And again, we know that you know, AJ's been talking about the ducks and stuff, and I don't know if you saw, AJ, I wanted to tell you this, but the videos that were posted by Heliofont, there's one video of a duck, of course.
Heliofont? Sorry, I must be behind. Who is? What's that?
Heliofont, the iPad Go creator.
Oh, okay.
Because he released 10 videos yesterday, yesterday to make his channel with his now has 11 video. Of course, his only video he had on there was the Heliofont iPad Go. But he posted 10 random videos. Of course, the bridge over water. As I mentioned earlier, I talked about it all in my video, but it was on the 93rd anniversary of the Golden Gate Bridge opening. He posted the bridge, but there's one video in there which is literally just a duck, which just points directly to what we've been talking about.
Well, yeah, especially I think one of the biggest ones that we just kind of stumbled upon, right, was when there was a fan who somehow was allowed to go into the arena during that Patriots game, right? Starring quarterback Drake May, you know. I don't think that's a coincidence. I mean, to me, that just further, for me, builds up on at least the Oregon Ducks narrative. I got more to share. I think there were a couple people in the chat that were asking if I had anything else to add to what I've shared so far, and I do, but I want to stay on topic, and we can touch on that later. Well, you know, last thing I'll say is, hey, what Mighty Ducks? What was their thing? What was their big thing in the Mighty Ducks? The flying V, right? I mean, that's a big thing to think about. Wearing green, they're all wearing green with the flying V, you know?
Yeah, and that video that he posted, the duck is basically on ice. I mean, because it's all icy, the river. So, you know, you have, not only do you have the duck there, but you have the icy river, and the current is kind of going two directions because the ice. And of course, I connected that to the currency in the bridge because there's the bridge currency, but yeah, that duck thing is definitely big, and I guess we shall see very soon if the Oregon Ducks end up being what this is. So yeah, we can go back to Rambo for now, but
Yeah. Well, we can curb that till later. I don't want to get too off topic.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, Delcy Rodriguez fits the rules. These are rules. They're playing by certain rules. If she wasn't born at this time, she wouldn't have this position. And it's interesting, ironic, isn't it, that Donald Trump enabled this trend to continue? It does make you wonder who they have. I don't know. If Trump leaves, who they have in store, and will it be a female? Sooner or later, you'd think with this trend, is a female going to be the president of the United States? But so here's another connection to the whole thread. The USS.
A VP. Sorry. So
What is that?
we're talking about the V and the P, right? And
Yeah.
Kamala, the VP, who maybe was going to take over for Biden. Maybe I'm stealing your thunder, but sorry, I was going to forget that if I didn't say it.
No,
The V and the P.
you're saying you think that Kamala Harris might be?
No, it just makes me think back to what we talked about originally when Biden was still in office, right? That maybe Kamala, the VP, could become, the female essentially becoming the first president, right? Replacing the male.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking V and P. So yeah, sorry. I won't do that again.
No, that's okay. So Maduro was on board the USS Iwo Jima. I think most people would be familiar with what the USS Iwo Jima is named after. It's named after this iconic image from it's named after the Battle of Iwo Jima in World War II. And this iconic image. So this is one of the most iconic images in history, historical photographs. This is after the U.S. forces took the island of Iwo Jima from Japanese imperial forces. The truth about this photograph is the soldiers who they actually put a flag up at I guess the highest point in the island. The soldiers who put the flag up, there was a photographer with them from the media who said, "No, I wanted to get a picture of you guys putting the flag up." Now the guys who had already put the flag up, they weren't there. These guys here didn't put the flag up originally. He called several guys, "Could you put the flag up so I can take a picture of it?" So they had only the flag, even though the flag was already up, they had to uproot the flag and give it to these guys to plant it again so that the photographer could take the picture. So I don't know if that's a major issue, but these aren't the guys who originally did it. They redid it for the photograph, and it's become one of the most iconic photographs of human history. Well, Iwo Jima. So Maduro was on the Iwo Jima, named after this battle, but Veep has used that imagery, which is an interesting connection. In one of the posters for Veep, they imitate Iwo Jima, and they have President Meyer, who's Julia Louis-Dreyfus, in that Iwo Jima. She's being propped up like the U.S. flag, Iwo Jima, when, ironically, the Iwo Jima is used in essentially putting a female into the presidency of Venezuela. So it's just interesting synchronicity here with the Iwo Jima. And so Veep, it first aired on April 22nd, 2012. That's the airing of the first episode. From the airing of the first episode of Veep until it was January 3rd, which is the invasion of Venezuela, or the attack on Caracas and kidnapping essentially of Nicolas Maduro, for 5,004 days, as if there isn't enough Venus symbolism already. There's never enough Venus symbolism when it comes to these rituals. The more thing about these rituals is the more layers you put on it. Sometimes, I think Aleister Crowley might have talked about it, the stronger the magic. Well, I guess what is magic? You're trying to impose your will on the events in the world. A lot of times what they're doing is they're on an unconscious level affecting human perception. It's on a deeply unconscious level, which will create conscious thoughts, which will create actions and perceptions. But these are the layers to it. And this is just what I'm noticing. There are way more layers than even I know. They're advanced magicians, and they use science as well, way beyond anything I can fully comprehend. But this illustrates the depths to which they will embed Venus symbolism and the idea of a female in leadership. So this happened 5,004 days after Veep was aired about the female vice president. Now there's a female vice president who becomes president in Venezuela 5,004 days later, who's a Taurus, ruled by Venus, and Venus is 54.
That's all I was getting at, was like, it's always been a male president. Now enter the female, the V and the P, right? That's it. And it's called Veep.
Yeah. So Selena Meyer, so this is not Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Selena Meyer has a birthday. The character has a birthday, which is February 25th in 67. 67 is also related to the female code. So a sacred feminine symbol is the dove. In Latin, dove is columba. The United States Capitol is named after the dove. It's literally the district of the dove, ironically, the most bellicose country, which is really just a continuation of a force that has existed. I mean, Babylon, Rome, Nazis, it's the same force. It's just a different facade. It's like these politicians. There's another force telling them what to do. They're just a facade. Nonetheless, this force decided to call the capital of the United States, its new capital, name it after the dove, after the sacred feminine, ironically, between Virginia and Maryland, Virgin Mary. United States is quoted with the sacred feminine. You saw how the building of the White House started on October 13th in Libra because of Venus. Also, when Gerald Ford, he was at the Herbert Hoover Library in Iowa when he made that declaration that a female will be president after first being vice president. That was done on October 18th, intentionally, because it's in Libra. Libra's ruled by Venus. They chose that date. But 67 is Columba, which is dove in Latin, which sums to 67. The 67th prime is 19. In English, dove equals 19. Just like womb is 19. So 67 is a very significant number to the sacred feminine. Water is a feminine element. You think of birth. A baby is basically incubated in the womb in a watery realm. The amniotic fluid, water sums to 67. Again, water is a feminine element. The 19th, 67 is the 19th prime. Womb is 19. Dome is 19. A dome represents a womb. So 67 is very much, and look at it, it's 19 and 67. The 19th prime is 67. So there's a lot of coding in this birth date. They knew exactly what they were doing because they follow this code. February 25th, how does that line up with Venus? The date is 225, which is the orbital period of the planet Venus, which is rounded off. It's actually 224 and a fraction. So 224 can also be a Venus code, but 225 is rounded off. That's Earth days for the planet Venus to complete one full rotation around the sun. 225 days. That's why they gave her the birthday of February 25th. So these are the depths that they go. So I looked at the tropical zodiac chart for the date of the invasion, and surely Venus should be significant. More than anything, I wanted to see where was Venus, which is still there as we talk today. It's the same location. It's moved a little bit, a degree or so, but nonetheless, it's in the same sign on January 3rd, 2026 in Venezuela, Caracas, Venezuela at 2:01 a.m., which is when the, I guess, kidnapping or the attack started. So not everybody understands a chart, but in general, these are the stars in the distance, and these glyphs are the glyphs for the zodiac signs. And if you're not sure, you can these tropical zodiac charts will always have a box next to it. So if you're unclear about what the glyph represents, which sign, they have a little key here. So the sun. So this is called a stellium, and so this is where Jupiter, Venus is. So I look for where's Venus. You'll see Venus is in the blue. It's kind of small. Hopefully, you get a general idea. It's Venus, and then so each sign is 30 degrees. It's 12 signs, and then in the middle here you have the glyphs for the sun, moon, and planets, and then these are the stars, the constellation on the outside. In the middle is Earth. What's on the bottom here is what you cannot see, and this is the horizon. So this wheel is moving this way. And so these are the rising signs. You have, this is Scorpio. Scorpio is ascending. This is over the horizon, and then descending with Taurus. So ironically, they actually have Taurus descending at the time of the attack, even though Taurus is ruled by Venus. And you had a Taurus who's Rodriguez, who's the new president, essentially, who's a Taurus, but Taurus is actually descending. So it's going clockwise. This is the horizon. So this
Well,
is
Rambo, I wonder if that has to do with the upside down theme that's going on right now with the Stranger Things. Because just yesterday, WWE Raw had their episode of with the Stranger Things, and they had one guy pointing down and another guy pointing up. It's like it's all this upside down symbolism.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that ties into it, since her sign was pointing down, but like you said, but she ended up rising, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because the guy who lost yesterday, or the guy who won yesterday, was the guy on the poster who was pointed down. So they flipped it. They did the inverse, and that's the same reason for the last episode of the show, because the last episode of the show was called The Right Side Up. But I told you guys that the actor who was originally taken into the upside down in the beginning of the show, his age was 985 prime days old, right? 985, like Jesus equals 985 in Latin. But the name of the episode, The Right Side Up, it equaled 685. So that the actor was 985 prime, and in this episode, The Right Side Up was 685 in gematria, in the same cipher that, I guess it would be better if I showed that again after you're done, but so you can see what I'm talking about. But they clearly did this symbolism of, it looks like the person's going down, but they're actually going up. So I think that's part of what you're saying there.
I think part of what could be part of the occulted message they're sending, which is something that this is my own personal conclusion. So when you see this underworld symbolism and that cycle symbolism of going to the underworld and then going to the above world and then going back to the underworld, this realm, the third dimensional material realm, is the underworld. So it's not that this is the above world, then you go to the underworld and then you're reborn into this. This is not the above world. This is the underworld. When you die, which is the metaphorical portal from the material realm to the spirit realm, is the golden gate. It's called the gateway of God, or the gateway of immortality. That's when you're going to the above world. That's the above world. And when you incarnate here, that's when you're going down into the underworld. This is the underworld. So I think when somebody who's pointing down or who's upside down ends up winning, what they're telling you is, but he's pointing down. So to be on top, you actually have to be down, because this is flipped. This is the underworld. So I think that's what they're signaling there. But hopefully people can get a general understanding of this is a typical zodiacal chart. And so the key here is, where was Venus? So Venus is in blue, the Venus symbol, it's like the female symbol, and you can see it's clustered next to these others. So that's a conjunction. That's a very close conjunction. Venus is only 2 degrees separated from the sun. So the sun was at 12 minutes. No, sorry, 12 degrees and 52 minutes. Venus was at 12 degrees 3 minutes. So Venus and the sun were both on 12 degrees. So that's a proper conjunction. Venus and the sun were right on top of each other on 12 degrees. Again, this is the tropical zodiac. It does not line up with astronomy, the science, but in the tropical, they are on 12 degrees, Venus and the sun. And of course, we're in Capricorn. It's a sun sign, so it would be in Capricorn. But Mars is only 2 degrees off. Here's Mars, 14 degrees. So, yeah, Mars is, it's less than a degree away. So you also have a Venus-Mars conjunction and the sun conjunction. Think of Venus and Mars. Mars, the glyph for Mars, which is the circle with the arrow, is the symbol for the male sex, whereas the symbol for Venus is the symbol for the female sex. So you have that yin-yang. Again, it's the same as above, below. This is alchemy. So that's what's behind this. Alchemy is very much behind the decision. Who makes the decision to, at least the date for this event to happen? It's actually adepts. You could call them wizards. You could call them warlocks, and some females too, who make these decisions, who have this profound knowledge. And clearly, this looks like they're using alchemy here by doing the yin yang. Yes, it's primarily Venus, but it's in conjunction, less than a degree away from Mars as well, and they're in conjunction with the sun. So this is just kind of a close-up of that. This is the glyph of, Mercury is nearby too. I don't know if that's considered close enough to be a conjunction. It probably is. They're a little bit liberal with these conjunction, what qualifies as a conjunction. Like Mercury's close enough, it's part of the conjunction, but you can see these are on top of each other, especially Venus and the sun. That's what these symbols are, and this is Capricorn. This is all in Capricorn, which is an earth sign. Remember, earth is feminine. Just like Venus, those are the only 2 female planets. The others are male in the Western tradition. Mercury is androgynous. It's male and female. Not the god Mercury, but the planet Mercury in the Western tradition is considered androgynous. And there are only 2 female planets, Earth and Venus, and they're associated with green. And Capricorn is an earth sign. So every zodiac sign has an element. So 3 signs for each element: earth, water, air, fire. Capricorn is an earth sign. And earth is a female, feminine element, just like water is a feminine element. So hopefully you get a general understanding of that chart. So this is the big headline now, and Trump sounds very, very serious. And they take him seriously now that he's going on invading places. Again, he's not the one with the power. There's another power they're acting through him. He's a medium, is basically what he is. But Trump says Venezuela is turning over millions of barrels of oil as his administration weighs options to acquire Greenland. So he really is. He's been emphasizing the importance of Greenland, that he's not joking. Now, Greenland is significant because the color green, talked about green, it's the color of Venus. And it's no coincidence that the Venezuelan female president is inaugurated wearing green. So Greenland is part of Denmark, and the president of Denmark, probably prime minister, is a female, Mette Frederiksen. Now, 77 is interesting too, because 77 is Venus rated as well. Every planet and planetoid, the sun and the moon, have a magic square. It's a so-called magic square because it's actually used in ritual magic. When they want to invoke the powers of planets, they use these magic squares. But for those who are more left-brained, maybe mathematically inclined, that's a good way of blending something that's not as more like right-brained, mysticism, astrology with math is the magic squares of each planet up to Saturn, not past Saturn, the sun and the moon. The magic square of Venus is 7 by 7. Typically, the closer you are to the sun, the bigger the magic square. And as you go further away, it gets smaller. 7 by 7 is the magic square of Venus. But her birthday is November 19th, and you will never believe how this ties into the whole thread. Do you know that Kamala Harris was acting president on November 19th? Yeah, so that's how it
Yeah. Sorry, Rambo. I mean, that was your
no,
big.
no, that's fine, man.
Some people were not here when I said that, so this is new to a lot of people.
Oh, okay. I'm being sarcastic, and it turns out, yeah, some people might be like, "Wow," but then again, they wouldn't, if they're new to it, they wouldn't really have the, I guess, the context that you got to understand to, so you fully grasp why they did this at this time. There, so hopefully,
if I can say, Rambo, there's something divine here with the conference that I'm at and all that stuff. Literally today, with them, having my time by the ball, so to speak. The whole day there was a bit that they had, and I leaned over to somebody at my table and I said, "Doesn't she look like Kamala Harris?" And the guy was like, "Oh my God, yeah!" And it was just, and I didn't know this was going to come up later. I didn't know I was even going to be able to show up tonight. So it's just wow, like it's all divine.
Yeah. And Rambo, I have something to add once you're done with this, and I don't know if you saw, maybe you saw it, but something with the Denmark coat of arms and how it might connect to Kamala Harris.
Okay, yeah, you can. I'm almost done here. There's a lot more to it. I'm not going to do the whole decode, but yeah, okay, yeah, I can have a general idea, but just beforehand, people, this is the coat of arms. This is of Greenland, not necessarily of Denmark. I don't know if this is the one you're talking about. This is the Greenland coat of arms, and so that's who Trump, and it has to do with green, which is the color of Venus. Also, remember what I said about 19, how it ties in. Dove is 19, womb is 19, fetus is 19, the 19th prime is 67, Columba is 67, Columba is dove sums to 67. That's all sacred feminine coding that they've put into all of this. And you see, and it's international. It's the whole world. Also, the 10-10 thing is because Kamala Harris became acting president at 10:10 a.m. I've talked about 10:10. Gabby Giffords, the Arizona congresswoman, she was shot but survived. That was at 10:10 a.m. And there's a connection to Ford here because the Ford's Theater, where Abraham Lincoln got shot by John Wilkes Booth, who's an actor, just like Trump's an actor. So who knows about that narrative? But what else am I going to say? It's the historical narrative. John Wilkes Booth is said to have entered Ford's Theater at 10:10 p.m. It's how it ties in with Ford's assassinations.
I see it tying in with Erica Kirk. Remember Rambo? Kodi and I did a lot of work on the 9/10, and shout out to Joseph Aquaviva as well, who's done extensive, incredible work, way beyond just the assassination of Charlie Kirk, but that whole music video, right?
Yeah.
And if you like, Erica Kirk is an actress, and she won Miss Arizona. So I just want to throw that in there as well. This falls perfectly right in line with what you're saying.
Yeah, so she ziplined in the video for She's My Kind of Crazy was the name of the video. It's before she married Charlie Kirk. She ziplines in Las Vegas, past neon lights. One of them was, what is it, 10-9 was it, or 9-10?
Well, yeah, it was 9-10, and that was the big thing that really caught most of our eyes. And then you took it a step further and you said, also look at the 10-10. That's right after it. Yeah,
because I'd done a lot of work on 10-10. I even showed how Rashee Rice, the Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver who had just won a Super Bowl 58, shortly after was in a car crash, just driving recklessly in Dallas. The mayor of Dallas, Eric Johnson's birthday is 10-10. October 10th, and then one of his victims did a interview for a local Dallas TV station, and she had a tattoo on her neck that said 10-10. And then Rashid Rice, his first game, he had a 6-game. He was injured for the following season, all the following season. He came back this season after a 6-game suspension. Rashid Rice's first game back was against the Oakland Raiders. Geno Smith was the quarterback for the Oakland Raiders. Geno Smith's birthday was 10-10, October 10th, when Rashid Rice's victim had 10-10 tattoo. So the 10-10 goes deep. And Erica Kirk, in her video where she zips past the 10-10 sign, is primarily based, she's in a Ford pickup truck in the video. She brings Ford into it, Ford's Theater. John Wilkes Booth entered at 10-10. There's a lot of assassination coding. And then Charlie Kirk ended up being assassinated. So there's assassination coding, which doesn't bode well for Trump. I mean, not that, if something happens to him, he most likely won't really be authentic, put it that way. So Trump's biggest nemesis is Marjorie Taylor Greene right now. She's a bigger nemesis to him than any Democrat, to be honest, because she threatens to split off part of the Republican Party. And she used to be diehard MAGA. And so there's a female and Green there. So I'll end it here. Another country that Donald Trump is threatening is Colombia. Now, if Donald Trump were to do, hypothetically, the same thing that he has done to Venezuela, essentially remove their male president, who's the Veep in Colombia? Who would take, if it went according to what's happened in Venezuela? Remember where Colombia comes from, Columba, the dove. Francia Marquez is the vice president of Colombia. She's the, I think, highest ranking person of African descent in the history of South American politics. She's the vice president of Colombia. Nobody of African descent in South America, not even Brazil, which has the highest black population, has had a black person in as high an office as vice president. So she's very historical. Francia Marquez, if Trump were to, he has threatened Colombia. I think it's Colombia. He's threatening the dove, is what he's doing, while he lives in the district of the dove, ironically. This would be Colombia's next president. Ironically, a female would become VP again if he were to do it to Colombia. Yeah, so I have a lot more to add to that decode, but that's where I'll stop here for now.
Yeah, and there's I don't know if AJ's talking. Can you?
Oh yeah, it looks like he's talking, but we can't hear him.
I started talking over him, but then his sound wasn't coming through. But yeah, so just to real quickly, I'll share what I have. I don't have a lot. I mean, I have a bit to add to that. Not really the numbers, actually, but so the first thing I wanted to show there was that you have Annalena Bauerbeck, and she's the, as I mentioned before, she's the president of the, and notice she's the Greens Party. I didn't even notice that earlier. She is the politician of the Alliance 90, the Greens Party. Yeah, of course. So there's that. I didn't even notice that before, like I said. But anyway, it was her. She had this. She became president of this right before Charlie Kirk's assassination, and she's I don't know even. Yeah, the Greens Party. How about that? And then what was I gonna say? I was also thinking about how Regulus is like the lion, and then Venus is often shown riding the lion. I think Inanna, the original Venus archetype, is shown riding the lion. So there's that. And then this is what I thought was super interesting. I looked at the Denmark flag, and let me see if I can actually pull up the Denmark coat of arms, because I used the Venezuelan coat of arms pretty extensively in my other decode to show the serious connection with the white horse that's on the flag. But this one's interesting because you'll notice that on the bottom of their coat of arms is an elephant. And I was like, elephant in Denmark? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I guess it goes back to the fact that Denmark had a lot of the, like, if you read, it's part of the Order of the Elephant. And notice that there's like a black woman, or I guess an Indian woman, a dark complected Indian woman sitting on the elephant. And I guess this goes back to the mother of heaven. Well, I mean, sometimes Venus is considered or is connected with that. And or the mother of God, sorry, which is Mary, of course, but that has a Venus connection right there. And I thought it funny that the order was instituted in the current form by King Christian V, like 5, but V like Venus. But I guess the reason that they employed this on their coat of arms is because the elephant in the castle design derives from the howdah, which of course is like a carriage that goes on the elephant. The type of carriage was mostly utilized in India. Well, who's Indian? Kamala Harris. And the Danish adopted this design since they ruled parts of India. The unfamiliar Indian howdah has been replaced in history by a familiar European castle, although the Indian rider has been kept the same. So, I mean, how crazy is that? You have the Denmark flag now even pointing us to an Indian connection, which connects us right back to Kamala Harris and that theme that you were talking about.
Yeah, the elephant is also the symbol of the Republican Party. So,
Right, yeah.
That's.
So were the Chiefs, right? Can you guys hear me now?
I can hear you. Yeah.
You know, the commander in chief, right? Patrick Mahomes went to White House High School, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and then that's, and I always I connected a lot of times Patrick Mahomes with Kamala Harris because he has that 152 gematria, like Kamala Devi Harris, like female president, Joe Biden, all equal 152. That was the huge number with them. Colonoscopy equals 152. That was the reason Joe Biden stepped down on November 19th to give Kamala Harris the presidency for 85 minutes. But yeah, all those things equaled 152. Patrick Mahomes, 152. But yeah, I just thought
Deserta, you were just mentioning earlier about Heliofont, right?
Elephant, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's a great one. That's a great wordplay right there.
Well, I had noticed something though too. I was actually thinking that sounded similar, and I noticed that if you spell out the name of the bridge that's in it has a couple cipher match to the bridge. That's the Order of the Elephant has a couple cipher match to the Jacques Cartier bridge, which was in that video. But you know, it was kind of like and just to show that, you know, like this whole thing with the bridge. Yeah, the Heliofont, elephant. Yeah, that's a great connection. But then, like I said, this whole thing was, you know, tied to the Golden Gate Bridge. I mean, as soon as I saw that he had posted that, and he posted 11 videos, when he only had one video on there, or no, he posted 10 videos to get to 11, and that was in connection with Stranger Things, whose main character is 11. And it was 11 days after the bridge episode released from Stranger Things. And then now he has 11 videos showing the bridge. But yeah, 93 years, guys. Exactly 93 years. The Golden Gate Bridge, 93. You can see that the name of the bridge also equals the Golden Gate Bridge in the two other ciphers. But the thing that really brings it together is the 93 weeks after the collapse of the other bridge, which was also 1 year, 9 months, 11 days. And then just going to go through this quickly. 32,364 days after the vehicle traffic opened on the Golden Gate Bridge, the video was MOV 364. Golden Gate Bridge equals 346. He had 34.6K subs at the time of the post. The construction of the construction of the Jacques Bridge to the construction beginning of the Golden Gate was 9/11, 91 months and 10 days apart, 9/11. 142 days before the anniversary of the bridge opening. The title, his description, title summed to 142. And again, Raw, this is the big one. Raw had their upside down show. Yes, this was what I was showing you earlier, Rambo. CM Punk is upside down. The Braun is right side up, which is interesting because, again, in the Stranger Things show, the upside down, we find out in the last season that the upside down is the bridge. It's not a realm of its own. It's only merely a bridge. It's not an actual realm. It's only a bridge. And the bridge was opened by number 11 in the show, of course. But just notice, in Swedish, the bridge translates to Braun. So this is a huge thing. This is huge. Like, this is a huge, and a shout out to Uncanny Deduction. He's now called the painting one on YouTube, but he's Swedish. So he was the one that originally brought this to my attention. But think about it. LeBron James is hugely connected to the Golden Gate Bridge. As another YouTube channel has shown, Kobe Bryant and LeBron James are all connected with the Golden Gate Bridge and King James. But yeah, the bridge is Braun. And what are the chances? The episode of Stranger Things was called The Bridge. And then Raw just happened to do a Stranger Things themed decode with Braun Breaker as the headline. And notice that Braun Breaker equals 78, like CM Punk, who won the match, who was upside down. And again, in the show, the bridge is the upside down. And so that's another reason why he won, because he was the bridge and his name equals the bridge. 78 in the same cipher. Notice that Braun Breaker has 2 Ks, 1111, K, the 11th letter. So his name literally means the bridge breaker. I mean, just think about that. And then not only that, he was born on the 297th day of the year, October 24th, which is the gematria of Golden Gate Bridge. And here's the 11 part, 11 days after the bridge released. And again, Helo Font had 11 videos after he posted these 10 videos. Golden Gate even equals Helio Font in 3 out of 4 ciphers. It also equals bridge. Bridge equals 45. But here's the big one. This is like, this connects back to this, to the Alice in Wonderland with the clock, the watch. And Cartier is a watch company. So the bridge name actually connects us to a watch company, Cartier, which makes watches. But look at this. The tower in the video it essentially looks like the same tower. I mean, it's very similar. We're just, in the way he shot the video, it shows the twin towers over here going down, or what looks like that. And then over here is your bridge, parallel with where the towers are in the original IPEC code. And then in Stranger Things, the big part of that is the grandfather clock of Vecna. He's all about the clock, and he becomes the White Rabbit in the final season. He becomes Henry. He takes the shape of he's wearing a vest like the rabbit. He has the stopwatch. He has the watch he carries around, and the girl that falls into the upside down, he traps her there, but she becomes kind of like Alice. And then the other girl that's already trapped there, she becomes the Mad Hatter. And again, this connects even back to the Future with the clock tower in that show. Just almost like saying it's time, right? More time themes. And of course, we know that Super Bowl 60 coming up is connected to the Golden Gate Bridge. I mean, it's near San Francisco, and it's also the Super Bowl 60. There's 60 minutes to go around full circle on a clock. And yeah, I mean, it's basically, I just thought that this is the most mind-blowing part. The scene almost identically parallels, except for the bridge becomes the two towers, because there's actually two pillars on this bridge, just like the Golden Gate has two main pillars.
And so does New York, right? And then there was that whole thing right before the NBA Cup, where there was, I don't know if it was in Spain or somewhere in Europe, there was a faux Statue of Liberty. I don't know if you guys remember seeing that.
It was in Brazil. That was in Brazil.
Brazil, right, exactly. Obviously connecting back to 9/11, and then we have the Brooklyn Bridge, which Cody's going to touch on.
Yeah, and that it just makes me think, because we talked about the Brooklyn connections earlier this year and a couple different times. But this show was in Brooklyn last night with Stranger Things Raw. And so I had to connect the Brooklyn Bridge as well, because it turns out that, again, the title of the guy's video, his description, it summed to 142. The Brooklyn Bridge happens to be 142 years old right now. And it's not only that, on the day of all this happening, it was 142 years, 32 weeks, and 2 days old, like 322. It was also 226 days after its 142nd birthday. We're in the year 2026. And again, May 24th is the day the Brooklyn Bridge opened. Oh, and the guy who won, his name is Brooks, like Brooklyn, of course. But yeah, check this out. The Brooklyn Bridge opened on May 24th, 1883. And the bridge, the guy posted in the video from Montreal, Jacques Cartier Bridge, just happens to be inaugurated on the same day as the Brooklyn Bridge opened. And that's exactly 47 years apart. How about that? Time 47. Trump's the 47th. You guys know all the 47th, most of you guys. 221 day of the year that day. And that just happens to be the gematria of Brooklyn Bridge, 221. And look at the name of Braun Breaker, his real name, Bronson Rechsteiner.
Cody, don't forget about the small bit we did about LeBron James and that whole thing about him doing the upside down thumb with Dylan Brooks, who's an Oregon Duck.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Remember that, against his son, right? And we talked about how it was related back to the Gladiator, but kind of fitting.
That's right. That actually makes a lot of sense now. I totally forgot about that. I'm trying to pull up this because, again, I touched on this last week too with the vision. Okay, this is huge right now. Because Logan Paul, of course, the brother of Jake Paul, he was in the vision. It was connected to the third eye. The third eye is the vision, right? Well, this group, Braun Breaker, is part of this group. He's actually the leader now because he actually usurped the leader, Seth Rollins, who originally created the group. Again, Seth Rollins, he's the visionary, and he created the group The Vision, and then he got betrayed by Braun Breaker. Funny enough, look at his birthday. This is actually big. Braun Breaker betrayed his leader, whose birthday is the Golden Gate Bridge Day. So think about that. He's the bridge breaker. He hits the guy who's born on the bridge's opening. He broke him in half too, because Braun Breaker's move is the spear, which they say breaks you in half. So this is like really, really crazy symbolic, which is why I'm really watching another bridge incident, because I mean, this is like pretty clear. And this other guy who leads the group, they call him the Oracle now. But again, he used to work for Roman Reigns of the Bloodline before he betrayed Roman and became part of the Vision. But look at his birthday, September 11th, 1965. born on September 11th. That connects us right back to how Heliofon, it was all about the iPad Goat, which was all about 9/11. And yeah, he's known as the Oracle now. And shout out to Myron from He Got Game. He reminded me in the comments that the Golden State Warriors play at Oracle Arena, and Paul Heyman is now called the Oracle. And he manages a group that has two guys. You have Braun Breaker. Again, Braun is the bridge, right? But the other guy he manages is Bronson Reed.
Like Braun's son is playing with Braun now.
Well, that's what I mean. It's got to be. It's tied to that for sure. It's Braun's son is playing with Braun right now. Yeah, it's tied to that for sure. And then also, like I said, Logan Paul's part of this, but they just brought in this other guy, Austin Theory, and look at his birthday. It's JD Vance's birthday. But check out what he's doing there in the photo. That's the upside down. He's doing the upside down. He used to do this quote called A-Town Down.
Wasn't that Usher?
Huh?
Wasn't that Usher originally? Peace up, A-Town Down.
Probably. I don't know much about Usher or rap, and like I don't follow that stuff very. It's probably it comes from somewhere. Yeah, I just know it from him because I always watched him do that. But yeah, so it probably does. But I think he does it too because his name is Austin. His name is Austin. He's from the Atlanta area. I think it connects to Atlanta somehow. But yeah, he's always talking about things going down, and I think this was kind of a power outage reference too. Like the power towers look like a big A. And then we've had actually a big power outage going on in Berlin, Germany. No one's really talked about it. I haven't even talked about it. I know what's going on, but there's something really crazy going on in Berlin. They were out without power for days now. And think about it. We talked about Berlin this year. The Colts collapse after the Berlin. And how obvious was that? The Colts never won another game after that game. I mean, that's just wild. And Derek, he had showed that the Colts are still on 572 wins all time. That's skull and bones in gematria. They never got off that skull and bones win. Like that was destiny right there. They never won another game. And then that goes back to what's going on, I think, in Berlin with the power outage. Which I think started I think it started like 5 days ago. I have to look and see if it's still going on, but yeah, anyways, that's the vision. I just wanted to cover that real quickly. And then this week was all about Sirius. Again, I'm not going to go over this now, but it was connected to the Tishtira horse from mythology, and we had all this white horse symbolism. The flag of Venice, and it all connects to Leo getting the horse. And I think this has to do with the sun and Sirius being the sun behind the sun, who we now know represents the white horse in Zoroastrianism. And notice that Tishtira, the name of the horse, equals Venezuela. It equals 39, like Venezuela. Even if you type in Caballo Blanco, which is white horse in Spanish, it equals 39, like Venezuela. And then one last thing, we know Trump is the fire dog. This was crazy. And behold, the verse from Revelation, it says, and behold, a white horse, it equals 462, like the full name of Venezuela. And this capture was 40 weeks, 6 weeks and 2 days before Maduro's birthday. That was pretty crazy. Simon Bolivar equals 595, like Sirius in Greek. He's always riding the white horse. Actually, January 3rd is a super match to Simon Bolivar. And then this kind of brings it all together. We got the eye in the sky, Sirius. We got Jim Carrey, you know, picking up the serious thing in the beginning that starts his awakening. But yeah, the Alan Parsons Project equals 88. And if you combine the first two songs of the album, Sirius, Eye in the Sky, it equals 88. The full name of Venezuela equals 88. 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious stuff, right? Let's see. And then just this stuff, just to end it. This is the white horse and the significance of the white horse. And notice it's always the women. Noah Cyrus, the sister of Miley Cyrus, she released an album. This just kind of, I'm just showing this to illustrate the white horse is serious. There was an album by Daniel Dennis called Sirius and the Ghosts, which I actually tied perfectly to the fire in Switzerland. Because the last song on that album is a French song I'm talking about the Daniel Dennis one, Sirius and the Ghost. It's a French name, and it means party underground. And the people that supposedly were in the bar were underground and were caught in the fire underground, and they were having a party. It was wild. But anyway, the white horse is on the cover of Sirius and the Ghosts. And then earlier last year, Noah Cyrus, whose full name equals Sirius the Dog Star in 3 ciphers, by the way. Her full name equals Sirius the Dog Star. In the video, she had a whole album based off the white horse. And in the one video called "Don't Put It All on Me," she meets this white horse as she's looking up into the sky. It looks like a bright star. I mean, looks like Sirius to me. And then the big one is this ship one right here. It's the band is called Tir Na Nog, which is Gaelic, Irish, and it's live at Sirius. And you can see kind of the bright white light again, kind of similar to the other album. So Tir is another name for the Persian god who turns into the horse, Sirius, who turns into the horse. And again, this is not Persian, but somehow the name of the band in Gaelic ends up being Tir, which is the same name as the Persian horse. And they're playing live at Sirius, and the song is called Two White Horses. I mean, come on. Like, this right here is mind-blowing, because like this this band is not huge, but I mean, they're big enough. They have a Wikipedia page and everything, and there's more. And a shout out to my new friend Someone, who his whole thing is Sirius. That's all he does, really.
I'm so glad you guys got connected, by the way.
Yeah, and thank you,
He's the one I
AJ.
was telling you about.
Yeah, and thank you, AJ, for putting us together, because he's blowing my mind every day with new stuff with Sirius, and he's really big into the rap video symbolism. He's been showing me lots of rap. Of course, I don't really like rap, but the symbolism in the videos he's been showing me every day. We've been getting together. So I'd like to actually have all of us kind of get together. He's got so much knowledge.
Yeah, there's another guy. He goes by 47 Slouch. Dear friend of mine who I've recently connected with as well, and he's very much in that space too. And he does a lot of great work, and he's actually shouted both of us out. I think I sent you guys or tagged you in one of the latest videos he did after watching last week's Eye to Eye, shouting all of us out. He hit me up the moment we stopped that stream. So we got some rappers in the house that are seeing what we're seeing. So I'm excited about that. I'm glad that you got connected. So we're good.
Yeah, that's great that more people are coming in. Again, the type of knowledge that some of these people have, like, I'm impressed with Someone. He has so much knowledge and has a great memory of it too. He'll just pull out stuff nonstop of just crazy things that, you know, he knows about different subjects, mainly Sirius, like I said, but he also talks about a plasma event that he sees in the code, and all connects to the colors pink, magenta, and green. Magenta and green is the colors of the reset. I won't get into that, but that's another part of his research, which is why T-Mobile is magenta, Magenta is the only color on the, or not the only color, or it's one of the colors on the spectrum that's actually not a color or something like that. It's actually outside of the color spectrum. And a funny thing is, I always used to tell people magenta was my favorite color because I always loved the shade of magenta. But also magenta, there's T-Mobile has the magenta, but then there's Telecom. Telecom is magenta, and they have a network called Magenta TV. And again, as someone points out, this is about the reset. This is the color of the reset. And a lot of these rappers, as he's mentioned, are putting these colors in their albums. It's green. It's usually green, and it has like magenta or purple. Like these are usually the colors, which is funny because
it's kind of. I'm sorry, Kodi, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, didn't we talk just last week about the Energizer Bunny? Right. We got Bad Bunny, who's going to perform the Super Bowl, and we're having all these blackouts taking place right in San Francisco and surrounding areas, right? Energy, all that stuff. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that's tied into that because Bad Bunny, he's from Puerto Rico and he has a lot of power outage. They have a lot of power outages there. And of course, Berlin Telecom is connected to Germany as well. I don't know if they're based in Germany. I don't know where they're based, but yeah. So, and then Germany's having that blackout in Berlin. So somebody's mentioning there's magenta on the Super Bowl logo. Yeah, I think there is, isn't there? Or it's a pink type color. So that's interesting. I didn't even think about that. Sojourn says a magenta has no single wavelength. I think that's what makes it kind of not be part of I have to look more into that. Like I don't understand it fully, but I mean we're getting close. We're at the 2-hour mark, and I probably have to get some more. I have some stuff I'm going to do later today. But is there anything else you want to share, Rambo or AJ? I mean, AJ, was there any slides you wanted to share real fast?
I do, but before I jump into my piece, all I'm asking for is maybe 10 minutes. But before doing that, Rambo's been patient, and Kodi, you've shared a lot of stuff, and I just want to give Rambo an opportunity to add anything else with what he observed.
Oh, I saw part of Kodi's live stream, and he was asking why Michael Jordan is associated with Sirius. Remember that, Kodi?
Oh yeah, yeah. I need to clarify. I always forget what that is, and I need to like ingrain it in my mind about how he connects to Sirius.
Yeah, so that is because when he was born at 1:40 p.m. on February 17th, 1963, in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
The Brooklyn connection?
Yeah. Just talk about that.
Yeah. Sirius, the star, was on the eastern horizon. So in astrology, the rising energy is very powerful. Some astrologers, they only go by the rising sign. So whatever constellation is rising in the east. Now, there isn't always a planet or a star there. It depends. There could be a significant star on the horizon, or a planet could be going through. Most people don't have a planet on the horizon, but some people, while they're born, there will be a planet or a significant star like Sirius on the eastern horizon, and that's the rising energy. Some astrologers consider your rising sign to be your zodiac sign. Some may use tropical, some may use sidereal, but the rising sign, some think it's so important that is your zodiac sign, because you're being born, you're being birthed. Well, coming up on the eastern horizon is a birth as well, and that's where Sirius was when Michael Jordan was born. That's why he is associated with Sirius.
Yeah, okay. That's what it was, and I always forget it, but now I'll remember it this time, because like I'm just wondering if it'd be interesting to go in and see who else has that too, like, because we know how Michael Jordan, I mean, basically he's tied to Sirius. I mean, just it's pretty obvious with the song that they used as soon as his career started.
To me, that's the easiest one, Kodi. Just know that Sirius, that song, the iconic Chicago Bulls song, is called Sirius, right?
Right.
And it started with Michael Jordan. I don't know. I'm pretty sure. I would have to look too, the history of when they introduced that song in their intros. But everybody
all I know,
knows
it
that,
was on his beginning of his career. It was when he
Right.
came into the league. They started using it, and they've used it ever since.
Right.
So
Yeah, so Heart Chakra Girl says that Michael Jordan was born on a 101 date numerology. So 101 is related to Sirius because in the sidereal zodiac, which is more like the science of astronomy, the star Sirius is fixed on the stars moving. So I said Regulus moves. They move very, very slowly, but they're fixed for the most part. They're moving so slowly. Sirius is always in Gemini. That's if you use the sidereal, if you use astronomy. And Gemini is the twins. So the 101 represents, number one is the twin pillars, the ones. And in the middle of the twin pillars, the 0 is Sirius. That's the representation. And Sirius being the dog star, which is why you have 101 Dalmatians, which Disney made famous. Why 101? It couldn't be 100 Dalmatians. Nice even number. No, because Sirius is the dog star and 101 represents Sirius. Where did I learn that 101 represents Sirius? From Bobby Simpson. Again, Casey Jones. We keep shouting him out.
Well, that is Casey Jones.
Oh, that's who shot. Oh, I thought.
Yeah, that's his channel.
Oh, I thought that said girl. I thought it was G1R. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that said girl. I don't know. I read girl. Sorry. Sorry. I didn't. He has all these names. Okay, he's a hero of 1,000 faces. I mean, so.
Yeah, he is.
I can't keep track of his names, but yeah, okay. Yeah. All right, that cleared that.
I was thinking the same thing, Rambo, but I know that's him because that's his new YouTube channel since he deleted his original one, or he doesn't have it anymore. So, yeah, but Casey Jones definitely, or Bobby Simpson, whatever name we want to call him, he's been pivotal in teaching us a lot of stuff. So, and also what happened this week too, I just want to mention this. Number 95 broke the sack record with the Dogs, right? And Fox Sports had posted Myles Garrett wearing number 95 sitting on a throne. And it said it's something about beware of dogs, right? And this is serious. This is about serious because, of course, the dog, right? But I'll just show it real fast because this is pretty crazy. If you go to I think it's the Square cipher, dog 595, and this happened during the Battle of Ohio.
Wow, dude. Wow.
Which equals 590. And of course, this is Sirius gematria in the Greek isosophy. That's why this number is significant. He wears the number 9. He wears the number 95, which, I mean, that's also Sirius. And he sacked number 9, which kind of is another 9-5 kind of riddle, like just about the 9s and the 5s, it seems. But yeah, they posted that. They said he got his 23rd sack. That was the record. That reminds me of the movie The Number 23 by Jim Carrey, who of course had the Sirius connection in the Truman Show. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that real fast because that happened in the Battle of Ohio 595, and just so happens that dog equals 595. I think this is a big clue as to why they use this word. You see it often.
For sure. Yeah. Was there anything else, Rambo, that you wanted to point out about Kodi's presentation?
No, you can go ahead with yours.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll say this really quick, Kodi, if you wouldn't mind just driving so I can just comment and you can just pull up some of the visuals. I mean, speaking of Ohio and King James, which I'll get to in a minute, if you wouldn't mind just going to nationaltoday.com. Shout out to my Patreon. I've been very busy this week, but I was able to catch this during one of the breaks of the conference that today is National Three Kings Day. Right?
Oh, well,
So you look that up, I immediately think of the Sacramento Kings, the LA Kings, obviously LeBron King James. We're on January 8th now, at least your time. But there you go. So Three Kings Day, right? I was like, are the Lakers playing? Of course they are. So if you go to ESPN, the game's already over, but before the game,
hold on. My computer's being slow again.
no, you're good. I might be going too fast.
Is it the Lakers game?
Yeah, just Lakers score. You should be able to see the record. So, yeah, if you look closely, the Lakers with the win, they improved. They got their 23rd win today on Three Kings Day, and King equals 23, and LeBron wears 23, right?
How about that?
was
3 1s. These are the three kings, man. 1 1 1.
There you go. Yeah, basketball game equals 1 1 1, etc. But yeah, so since you just brought that up with Ohio and the 595 and all that stuff, I thought I would start there. But I also, before I go into my quick bit here, there was somebody in the comments that keeps asking for my take on anything else I have on the Oregon Ducks, because yeah, we're very close to the 9th. Before I do that, right when I got cut off, not by any of you guys, I'm just saying when my mic cut out, we were talking a lot about the male and the female tonight, right? And I chimed in about Erica Kirk and the 10-10, right? And then that's right when I wanted to add my last little piece, and I got cut out. I just wanted to remind everybody, once again, shout out to Joseph Aquaviva, he, Kodi, myself, Rambo. We were all at that point keeping an eye on Erica Kirk's amount of posts that she had on Instagram. And we had a couple different theories of when she would actually make her next post. And sure enough, her 666th post on Instagram was on 10-10 last year. And kind of going back right to Rambo's theme of tonight about the female and the male, right? Trump and the pussy stuff, blah, blah, blah. But like now you have exit Charlie Kirk, now enter Erica, right? Remove the male, enter the female. Just kind of the same whole idea. So I just wanted to add that. I know it's kind of way after the fact, but just wanted to add that in there as a reminder, because the 10-10 was very important with what you were talking about, Rainbow, and obviously everything else you were talking about prior to that. And thank you, Rambo, on your last Patreon post and on Instagram for shouting me out about, kind of what we talked about last week and the week before, everything about Skull and Bones and amazing additions. I never even would have thought to even see or look about the 28 Days movie, and it was the Bone. What was it called? The Bones.
The Bone Temple.
Yeah, that just blew my mind. I was just like, holy smokes, man. So thank you for that. And I'm not saying I'm closing that chapter as far as what I'm looking at, but I did a post on my Instagram a few days ago before my trip, pointing out about just how the alignments of college football. So I'm not going to really be talking about the Super Bowl other than I'll shout out Rambo. I got to find the eye to eye that we did where Rambo, you and I have a live stream. It's somewhere in that 130 videos where you pointed out everything about Back to the Future 3 and Clara Clayton and all that stuff. But when that happened, I was latched on and I said, you guys better put features in now for the Denver Broncos. And they were like middle of the road beforehand, but now here they are as a number 1 seed, right? My point is that there was another thing that I kind of latched onto, and it was about Gene Hackman, right? And RAMBO, it was because of you pointing out about all the stuff you did about Sydney Sweeney and what I have good genes, but it was a play off of the word of genes like you wear and actual genes like DNA, which kind of ties right back into the love themes, right? I mean, when you make love, you create another being and create genes, right? So my point is what I really want to emphasize, it's just amazing to me how this ties in with all three of the stuff that all three of us have been doing. And I saw it come together once again. So Kodi, if you wouldn't mind helping me out here. As I just said verbally, we got Eugene Hackman. He died the same year as Terry Gene. I don't remember Hulk Hogan's last name, but Gene's the main name you need to focus on. But Eugene Hackman, he was in a movie called Hoosiers. I would argue it's one of the biggest movies he was ever in, even though it's not going to be right here on the top movies that they show. Maybe it's because I'm a basketball fan. But what I want to emphasize is the movie Hoosiers. And Kodi, all I'm going to ask is for you to just look at or pull up the dates that the movie Hoosiers was released. And I think you can fill in the blanks from there.
Okay, so November 14th.
Yeah, why does that matter?
Okay. Yeah. Well, you know, that's King Charles' birthday, so
King Charles, right?
Yeah.
King Charles. So
Orion Pictures.
What was
That's
that?
interesting. It's by Orion Pictures, but that's interesting.
Okay, yeah, I didn't even look into that. So to summarize the quick video I put out was emphasizing, you know, how the removal of these characters on the world stage, whether you want to call it sacrifices or rituals or whatever, point is that they're off the world stage now. Gene Hackman and Charlie Kirk are two of them in the same year, just like Hulk Hogan, who has the middle name Gene, right? So, and we've been talking a lot about King James, even just in this last stream, and plenty others prior to it. So the first thing I want to point out is just the release date of the movie Hoosiers. It released on King Charles's birthday. Let's not forget about King James and everything we touched on there. But check this out. The lead role that Eugene Hackman plays in this movie is he's the head coach. He is the main role of this movie. And once again, the emphasis is on Gene, meaning Eugene, right? And the University of Oregon is from where? Eugene, Oregon, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got that connection. And if you wouldn't mind just looking up like the IMDb, just to show kind of some of the main characters. The thing is that he plays the head coach of the Hoosiers, but he also has an assistant coach. And I just want to emphasize what the assistant coach's name is, or the character's name is, right beneath Gene Hackman. You see that?
Oh yeah, Shooter.
His character's name is Shooter in the movie. And then you and I, all three of us, talked about the whole bunny rabbit, right? Rabbit season, duck season, rabbit season. Well, who's the actor who plays Shooter? Dennis Hopper. See what I'm saying? Once again, that word play, it's right there. And
Well, that's the last name of the main character of Stranger Things as well. 11. She gets adopted in the show by the police officer named Hopper, and so her name ends up being Jane Hopper, her like official name. That's to go with the Alice in Wonderland theme, because the girl who plays, the actress who plays 11, Millie Bobby Brown, she is her first role was actually as Alice, and Once Upon a Time in Wonderland. So that actually connects not only to the bunny, but goes right back to the Alice in Wonderland stuff. Just thought I'd add that in there because that Hopper name is big
No,
with
that's
Stranger
awesome.
Things.
No, that's
And that's in
awesome.
Indiana too. I forgot. Stranger Things takes place in Indiana.
Oh, wow. I did
That's
not
the
know that.
point.
I'll be honest, like I saw most of the first season and I never really got back into it. I just watched people's breakdowns of it. So,
Yeah, it takes place in a fictional town in Indiana, but it takes place near Indianapolis. Because if you go to season 4, they have an
Okay.
earthquake that splits the ground open, and they say it's by Indianapolis. They even mention Indianapolis in the show. So isn't that funny, right? Because we have what you're showing here. It just seems to connect
Well,
perfect.
and so to that point, Kodi, so as you can imagine, this movie, I'm not going to spoil anything, or maybe I will, other than saying this movie takes place in Indiana. Hence it's called Hoosiers. Let's not forget about the Indiana Hoosiers, who is typically a basketball school, right? They are known for being a basketball school, even though they have not done anything in the world of college basketball for a very long time. But a couple other things here I just want to point out. I think to keep it simple, Kodi, if you could just Google search who is the main basketball player in the movie Hoosiers. And this is going to go right back to the top of what I mentioned. His name's
right?
Jimmy. His name's Jimmy, and he's the shooter. He's the shooter. I mean, he'll go to the cup every once in a while, but Jimmy is the shooter, and he's being co-coached by Eugene Hackman and a character named Shooter, right? Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
So you got that Jimmy James connection once again here. Let's not forget that Charlie's middle name is James. And he is a Ducks fan. Where are the Ducks located? In Eugene. Now you have Eugene Hackman playing the head coach of the Hoosiers. And who is Oregon facing on January 9th? The Hoosiers.
Are they playing? Yeah.
Oregon's playing the Hoosiers. This is, in my opinion, Rambo, this is the underdog theme. Like, this could be one of the biggest underdog situations of the year. And I say that because Oregon's lost one game this year. Guess who it's against? Indiana.
Oh, they already lost to them?
Yeah, it's the only game they lost all year. They played Indiana earlier this year, and Oregon did not play very well. So that's why. But ironically enough, Indiana is only favored by 3.5. I mean, you would think Indiana would be favored by at least a touchdown. So let me just make sure I touched on everything else. Oh, yeah. I just got to emphasize, if you want to look it up, the director of the movie Hoosiers went to the University of Indiana. So some could look at it like, well, isn't this clearly obvious for Indiana to win again and go to the championship? I kind of have my own take on it. But you'll see, yep, right there. He went to Indiana University. He is a Hoosier himself.
Gosh, this is trippy though too, because I live right next to Decatur, man.
There you go.
That's where I grew up. I mean,
yeah,
it's essentially my home area. This is where I drove the Amish for years.
Yep, exactly. The last thing I'm going to say here is, I want to emphasize kind of duality. And Kodi, you've talked about this last year, technically now, about there does seem to be a lot of duality with one team loses to another team, and then later that year they kind of get their revenge. It's very hard to beat a team twice, let alone 3 times. But besides the point,
this is the kind of thing I was talking about, though. Like, this is the perfect setup. This is what I've noticed is when you have, and in the NFL at least, I haven't really followed this pattern in college as much necessarily, but because oftentimes they don't play each other again, right? It doesn't happen in college. But in the NFL, it's very common that I've seen the team that if the matchup happens again in the playoffs, like it did in the regular season, the team that usually wins in the regular season will get the win in the regular season so that the team in the playoff can get that revenge. I've noticed that happens quite often.
So I got two other talking points before I forget, because I didn't write it down. Kodi, if you wouldn't mind, just on Google typing in who did the. But by the way, the Hoosiers, they're called Hickory High School. Who did Hickory High School beat in the state championship in the movie Hoosiers? Because the movie Hoosiers is an underdog story. It's a huge underdog story. And this goes back to Rambo's red and yellow themes. What colors do the God damn it, pardon my French, Hickory High School, like, I'm trying to remember their name. Look, they beat the Bears in the finals. And we've talked a ton about Charlie Kirk and the Bears. Shout out to you, Rambo. I mean, Charlie Kirk, the Bears fan, the Cubs fan. Now you got the Hoosiers, led by Eugene, technically, now facing the team from Eugene. You see what I'm saying? So that blew my mind. Not to mention the green and yellow stuff that Rambo's been on all year. I might have forgotten the last part, but I think I got my main point across. It might come back to me in the next couple seconds, but that's pretty much what I had to share. So my interpretation of this is it's a perfect underdog story. I have a whole other segment essentially talking about who did Indiana just beat to get to this game. They beat the Crimson Tide. And let's not forget that one of Gene Hackman's biggest movies was called Crimson Tide, right? So how perfect. There is a Gene Hackman narrative going on with this. And to me, it just makes a lot of, here was the last one. Here's the last thing. Duality, right? We were talking about duality. The last thing I'd like for you to search, Kodi, and thank you so much for driving on this. Please search who is the first college team to win a basketball championship.
My typing just got completely crappy.
I know it's late, codes. I know it's late.
We just try to find it here.
So way before March Madness, way before, the college tournament in basketball, the Oregon Ducks, they used to be called the Oregon Webfoots. In other words, the Oregon Ducks were the first team ever in college basketball to win a championship. I don't think they've ever won since. That is their only championship. They don't even record it nowadays because it was so old. But think about that duality, right? Indiana has multiple championships going back to the Bobby Knight days. Okay, but now Indiana, who's never been relevant in football, they're expected to win the whole thing. You know what I mean? So just think about that kind of offset. You got the team Oregon, who's won the very first college basketball championship ever, versus the Hoosiers, who are well more known for being a basketball school. And now they're the football team, but Oregon's always been the football team, even though they've never won. You see what I'm saying? It's like, it's right there. That's the best way I can explain it. Hopefully that made sense, you guys. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. That's all I got there. So if you guys got anything else to add, then all good.
No, well, so Crimson Tide, there's also the submarine, because symbolism, because Crimson Tide is about a submarine. Crimson Tide is the name of the submarine with Denzel Washington was in that movie with Gene Hackman.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole underdog theme that I've been talking about this year, where I started talking about it, was at the incident, which is on August 10th, 2025 in Washington, D.C. at the Subway sandwich store. And the Subway sandwich has that green and yellow logo. And think of Shooter from Happy Gilmore, the character Shooter. They actually brought him back for Happy Gilmore too, to do a Subway sandwich commercial, because Subway sandwich is actually part of the Happy Gilmore. So that kind of ties into Shooter as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, but he threw the attorney. He's an attorney for the Department of Justice. Threw a Subway sandwich at one of the occupying ICE officers in Washington D.C. intentionally. That Subway sandwich restaurant was placed on U Street. It was at the intersection of West 14th Street and U Street. And they emphasized that. I saw in the clips I saw from television reports, which told me that U was very important. If you think of Underdog, the cartoon character, he has on his chest a U. The same way Superman has the S, Underdog has the U on his. And that's when I started getting into the Underdog. But Germany had U-boats. In Germany, in World War I and World War II, they had U-boats. Unterboot, I think is how they pronounce it. Those are German submarines. And also submarine name for a sandwich. That's why it's called Subway, submarine. So also does tie into Indiana indirectly. Michael Jackson is from Indiana. And I believe that was in 2023. A Michael Jackson impersonator in New York City was choked to death on a subway, in a New York City subway. So you had the subway underground. It connects to Indiana through the person who was choked to death on the subway. I guess that's the hanged man. What's the hanged man? He's upside down, the hanged man. That symbol, upside down symbol, is in Indiana. He impersonates Michael Jackson. He wasn't impersonating Michael Jackson when he got choked to death, but that's how he was known, and that's how he was portrayed to the media. So Subway and that underworld theme ties into so much, but that's how it started on U Street. And
Yes.
so the submarine Crimson Tide ties into that.
100%. Yep. Yeah, no, I was kind of leaving that for you to fill in those blanks. I knew you would touch on it because, I mean, we, for anybody who's been watching this for a long time, that is certainly not the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth time that Rambo has talked about it. And that's why it was so amazing to me when I saw Indiana playing the Crimson Tide. Something hit me about Gene Hackman, and then I thought about that movie, so on and so forth, right? So the Underdog, the U, you know what? I haven't even looked on the other side of the bracket. Once again, I already put it out there. I'm on the Oregon Ducks. I think this is their upset just to get to the finals. I think this is it. I personally think Indiana had their moment beating Ohio State. If you go back and look, who did, excuse me, who did Oregon beat in basketball, the very first college basketball championship? They beat Ohio State. So Indiana beat Ohio State. They were the defending champs. And what's his name? Fernando something, the quarterback who won the Heisman. I think they had their moment. I think they had their moment, and I think this is the moment where it's like, oh my God, they were so close. Oregon finally gets back to the championship. When was the last time Oregon was in the championship? We talked about this. Excuse me. Tickle my throat. It was the year that the college playoff started. It was Oregon and Ohio State, and they got their butt kicked. So I'm on Oregon. I'm on Oregon. But you and I also talked about Miami and the U. Miami got kind of ritualistically embarrassed earlier this year, being upset by USF, another green and yellow team. You see what I'm saying? So that's I don't know what happened to you guys. Sorry. Woo! Maybe I should stop talking. I think it's Oregon and the U. I think after everything we've talked about this year, that makes the most sense to me as far as who's going to be in the finals. So just take that for what it's worth. When I have a chance, when I get out of this godforsaken conference, I'll have more to share on it. But to me, it just makes the most sense. We've been talking about it for so long. It's always been out there, you know?
Yeah, that was U Street where the sandwich incident happened at the green and yellow subway. And that's Underdog's logo, is the U on his chest. So yeah, U has been, I've been emphasizing that. And I was talking about Utah long before the Charlie Kirk incident. I started talking about Utah.
Oh, yeah.
Then I talked about the green and yellow. There's only one green and yellow in the NFL. It's the Green Bay Packers. Their starting quarterback is Jordan Love, who went to Utah State. I also talked about Utah in terms of all the there's been emphasis on Donald Trump's mortality and assassination attempts, and there's somebody who allegedly attempted to poison Donald Trump, and he was from Utah. So I had been talking about Utah extensively before, and it started with that incident, that sandwich thing, the subway thing. I can't hear.
Yeah, your thing's out again. I don't know what's going on.
Well, it's been 2 hours, yeah, so we can wrap it up.
My internet just went out, and it seems like it's really weak right now. So yeah, it seems like it's about time to wrap it up. Everything's yeah. So I don't know, AJ. I don't know if you can come try to see if you can come back on. Or I'll just close it out, I guess. But yeah, thanks to everyone in the chat for being here on our eye to eye. I know this was a little bit different than our normal thing, but I'm glad that we at least got all three of us in here. And thank you to all the people. We had about 200 something people in here at once, and thank you to AJ for setting all this up and also for making it in here. And thank you, Rambo, for all your great information and for teaching us every week. And yeah, I guess it's a good time to wrap it up. Again, don't forget to go support all the great YouTube, all the great channels, not just these two guys, but all the other great channels doing the work. And yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you, Kodi. Thank you for hosting again and all the great information you share. And thanks to AJ again for, in difficult circumstances, still making an appearance. I appreciate that. And most of all, thanks to the audience for being there and supporting us all.
Yeah, thank you, Rambo. Thank you, Kodi. The truth will always prevail. Like I said earlier, that this was so important to me. I did my best to be here, and I'm thankful I was able to show up and just share some of the things that I've been finding when I have my own free time in the limited week that I do have. So thank you, Kodi. Serious shout out to you for making it happen, keeping that ball moving. We got plenty more to talk about moving forward. And yeah, I love you guys. I will be back into my nest, so to speak, by Thursday night, Friday. And, we'll go from there. Otherwise, you guys will hear from me soon. Thank you guys again.
Yep. Thank you, man. And thanks everyone in the chat. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your evening and great rest of your week. And we will see you guys tomorrow, or not tomorrow, next week, Tuesday at our normal time. So have a great night, everyone. Much love. God bless.
Yes, sir. Peace.